Okay, so I'm sure we'll have folks trickling in over the next 5 minutes or so. But for the sake of time, to allow our panelists and presenters from Trane Technology the opportunity to present in full, let's go ahead and get started. So Tamika, I'll pass it over to you as our moderator to go ahead and kick off the event.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for attending this event tonight. We are partnering with this event with Trane Technologies tonight. We are so excited to be here. But first, let me introduce myself. I am Tamika Wilson, HBCU Connect's event manager, and I decided to give Will a break tonight, let him admit everybody and let him view the chat box and just kind of sit back and relax while I moderate the conversation. We are looking to have a great time. We've got some really great experience and excellent resources from Trane Technologies that have some open roles that will provide a lot of insight on the culture as a minority at Trane Technologies and some other things that you may have questions about. So before we move forward with that part of the event, I want to toss it back to you, Will, so that you can give a little background on HBCU Connect and why we have these types of events.
Okay, sure. A little bit of background on HBCU Connect. We've been around since 1999. Of course, the mission of our organization is not only to allow HBCU alumni and students to stay connected to each other, but we also want to allow HBCU alumni and students and African-American professionals to stay connected to opportunities. So whether that's scholarship opportunities, internship opportunities, or jobs after graduation, HBCU Connect is here for you. So that kind of brings us to what we're doing today at this event here, presenting Trane Technologies. We have a wonderful, group of employers that partner with us to bring opportunities to you as diverse professionals. And so in this evening, we're going to present Trane. This is our Trane Technologies. This is our second event that we've hosted with Trane Technologies. The first event went awesome. A lot of people asked questions and got a lot out of it. So in this evening's event, we hope that you do the same. Make sure to ask questions. Make sure to introduce yourself in the chat. And then, after the presenters introduce themselves, make sure to ask questions directed to them in the chat. And I'm going to encourage our Trane Technology panelists to engage with the candidates in the chat as well, to answer questions specific to you or questions that you might see that are available. But that's a little bit of background about us and what brings us to these events. We hope that these events lead to some fruitful conversations that can lead to interviews and can lead to hires. So Tamika, I appreciate the introduction and I appreciate you moderating our event.
All right, I skipped a little ahead of myself. Before we get to our keynote, I want to talk about the event agenda really quick, just so you can know how the event is going to flow. Will has already done the HBCU Connect introduction, but right now we are getting ready to have our keynote speaker, who is Tyrone Ellis. After he talks, we'll meet the Trane Technology team, starting with Kenya Jacobs, and we'll have a brief panel discussion, which we encourage you, like Will said, to drop your questions in the chat box, whatever it is that you want to know about Trane Technologies, what it's like to work there, how you can apply, whatever. Tonight is free game. Go ahead and type it in, and we will try our best to get your questions answered. After all of that takes place, we will have next steps from a recruiting representative, just so you can really know how to submit your resume and really get looked at from a recruiting standpoint. So up next, we have Tyrone Ellis. He is the aftermarket engineering leader for Trane Technologies, and the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Tamika, and good afternoon, good evening to everyone. So excited to be here with you for the second event, and love to see all the activity in the chat box, and keep that going. In fact, we're going to challenge everybody to give us at least 2 questions in the chat box too, so that we can answer and tell you more about Trane and some more about how to be successful in corporate America. And so we're really want to see and interact with you, see those questions. So keep it going. Love it. So with that, introduce myself. As Tamika mentioned, I'm Tyrone Ellis, aftermarket engineering leader with Trane. Been with the company for about 9 years. It's amazing how time flies, and this is the 4th role that I've had since I joined the company. And so it's interesting. The roles have been quite different, from integrated supply chain to quality to engineering, and yet certainly being with a company that allows that type of mobility to continuing to have new opportunities across a global climate innovator that Trane Technologies is pretty exciting. And so what my role currently is working to develop and lead deployment of technical solutions for the aftermarket here for the Americas, supporting our business units that we'll talk more about on the next page for HVAC. Clemson University grad. So I don't know if any football fans, a lot of people know us for football, but I have a great engineering program in electrical engineering at MBA from Tulane. I'm actually calling you right now from Chicago. So certainly I had the opportunity to interact with a lot of HBCU, I guess, current students and graduates right now at the MBA conference that's occurring this week in Chicago. So certainly excited to be here. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide and talk a little bit about the company. So as I mentioned in my comments a second ago, Trane is a global climate innovator that has been around for a long time. We actually spun off and to a different company specifically called Trane Technologies last year, and really focused our our mission and purpose on global sustainability, really focused on climate, as I mentioned. We are all over the world. We're a global company with a presence in Americas, as well as Europe and Asia. Over 37,000 employees now. We just acquired a new company that was just announced as well. So I don't know how much that number changes, Kenya, but certainly it's a large company, and we're excited to be take what we are very passionate about when it comes to sustainability across the world. And so we've got our businesses that play in all these specific parts of the world, and some more so than others. When you look at Thermo King having a large presence in Europe, and our HVAC businesses having a large presence in the Americas, and so forth. So the nice thing about it is the opportunities are endless as we look at across our footprint. So with that, the next slide will give you a little more insight on some of our brands. And we have three businesses that we go to market with, business units, and some of them are geography specific, but we have commercial HVAC, which is our largest business unit, and some of the leaders that you're going to hear from today are actually a part of that business unit here in the Americas. We also have a combined commercial residential business unit in other parts of the world, but residential is our next one. And let me back up. Commercial HVAC is really focused on, just as the name indicates, those commercial buildings and applications that can be pretty complex, pretty large, rooftop type applications for hospitals, for schools, and for corporate, I guess, commercial buildings. I'm sitting here in Chicago looking at the skyscrapers, and skyscrapers, I know there's some nice Trane HVAC equipment supporting keeping them cool, and certainly very comfortable for the people that work and live there. Then in the residential HVAC and supply space, this specific business focuses on supporting HVAC for homes, and the supply portion of that name really focuses on the aftermarket for commercial and residential. That when it comes to parts and that we make OEM branded, or it could be supply parts as well that we may have, or wholesale parts, I should say, that we may offer to the market as well. So, and I apologize for any background noise that you may hear as people are attending the conference. So hopefully you can still hear me fine. And then the third portion here is transport refrigeration, and this has to do with the moving products from point A to point B, whether it be things like food, which is probably the largest commodity that we move for transport. But we get a lot of positive press about how we impacted the vaccination distribution as well through our transport network for Thermo King. And so we're a big player there with helping to get that move from those manufacturing organizations that made the vaccine to the point of use in order to help distribute that across the country. And so those are the kind of three models that we go to business with. As you can see, we've got a number of brands underneath that, some being obviously our own Trane brand, and some being brands that serve specific portions of the market. But all three of these, as you hopefully could tell by my comments, again, focus on sustainability as it relates to greenhouse gas emissions and how we reduce that, which is kind of a good lead in into the next slide that we're going to talk about here. And that is in relation to our bold, what I like to call BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goals we set for 2030. And they're focused on these three columns that you see when it comes to Gigaton Challenge, leading by example, and opportunities for all with our Sustainable Futures Initiative. But let's talk about first the Gigaton Challenge. So it's interesting, what a lot of people maybe outside our industries may not be aware of, 50% of greenhouse gases emissions that we have in the world are related to heating and cooling buildings and homes. And so based on what we do as a company, we feel that this is an area that we can make a substantial impact on, especially when you think about how you impact the city, the places where we have applications, and how that can change a county, how that can change a state, how that can change a country, and of course, how that can change the world. In fact, with this initiative that we put in place, we actually planned, I guess, with the 2030 Gigaton Challenge, the amount of reductions that we are committed to go and solve for will actually match the size of three European countries, Italy, France, and the UK. With their with the amount of missions they do, and so this is a big deal. We're really focused on how we drive design in a different way, how we drive innovation in a different way, how we drive, how we service, and how we manufacture, all in different ways that move the needle to make a substantial impact on the world. And so we're excited about that. I think the other key thing, not only just for our HVAC components, but even for our thermal transport components, about 10% of greenhouse gas emissions actually come from food loss in transport. And so between our products for HVAC and what we do for thermal transport with our Thermo King business, you can see we can make a substantial impact on the world with our Gigaton Challenge. And that's really what we're focused on in that space. And we're the first in our industry to step up and make such a bold commitment to go out and really tackle and lead when it comes to climate innovation and sustainability with the Gigaton Challenge. The second column, leading by example, I always kind of equate this to we got to walk the talk. So hey, if we're going to go and say we're going to do this, we're also going to make sure that our facilities and the things that we have across the world are leading by example when it comes to how we operate in our local communities. And so we're focused on in our plants and our different offices across the world, how we achieve carbon neutral operations, zero waste to our landfills and our different areas. In fact, we just made an announcement that our New Jersey operation achieved that here recently. So we're pretty excited about that. Again, net positive for water use and also reducing our energy consumption overall. That includes our corporate offices, our sales offices by 10%. And so we can say we're going to do a Gigaton Challenge with our products and the things that we do, but we got to lead also by example with looking in the mirror and making sure that we're doing the things that we're asking for our products and our partners to go along with us on. And then the third one, which is just as exciting for me, and that is opportunities for all. And so as you're going to hear from Kenya and some of our other leaders about our commitments for diversity, we're real on this. And so there's conversations that are happening across the company that I know for a fact are not happening in other organizations. As I have opportunity to talk with a lot of other leaders here at events like I'm in today, that we are really trying to walk the talk here when it comes to diversity, and certainly we're not where we want to be yet by any means, but the commitment of our leadership to the fact that we put it in our goals and objectives and bonuses for all of our leaders across the company to really create that environment that helps to enable that type of diversity in the goals that we've set. Parity for leadership, well, you'll see a little bit more of what we signed up for there around female leaders being in key leadership roles across our company, which is unheard of in a lot of organizations. We are committed to that, and we signed up to some pretty aggressive goals to have 50% of our leaders to be women, and we've got a couple of strong leaders here on the call. You're going to hear from with Michelle and Kenya that tell you more about their journey in their careers as well. And so, not going through all the specifics here, but it's exciting when we step up and say, hey, sustainable futures, opportunities for all is something that's in our DNA with our new company, Trane Technologies, which is one of the reasons why we're on this call with you tonight, because with HBCU Connect. So with that, let's go to the next slide. One specific thing that I guess out of these group of things we're going to talk about is the 110 initiative. But when you look at all 5 of these that you see on the slide, they all are things that we're very proud of, and it's just interesting the amount of awards and that the company's getting for just our commitments that we're doing. We're trying to create the culture in order to enable what I would call those conversations that occur that really drive change. And so our Paradigm for Parity initiative that I mentioned around our gender equity in our organization, 110, we'll talk about that more in just the next slide, but the 110 initiative, which we're one of the founding members, where we're committed to hire 1 million Black Americans through this initiative, and pretty excited about where this is going because it's picking up speed. The best employees for diversity, and we've won quite a few awards here recently around our culture, and we know that it's just going to get better, especially as we bring more and more diverse talent into the company. The other thing, 2 things we'll mention there are diversity and inclusion CEO initiatives that our CEO, who actually retired just a couple months ago, he's chairman of the board now, and we his what I would call his sidekick, our CEO took over as CEO, and he's been planning and very committed toward everything that we're doing here. It's excited to see that continuation for our diversity and inclusion efforts and the top engagement scores. And so one way that we measure our culture is through annual engagement surveys that we do across our company. And then we compare that to our competitors, and we are consistently in the top quartile of all companies with how we actually have engaged employees, which leads to the kind of culture that really promotes all the BHAG, Big Hairy initiatives that we have across the organization. And so again, culture, we believe a diverse culture, when we say diverse, people having opportunities of all races, of all genders, and especially leveraging things like our employee resource groups, that we can really use that to create just a dynamic culture that really helps us to achieve that Gigaton challenge and other things that we've signed up for as an organization. So lastly, the next slide, I just want to highlight the 110 initiative one more time with a little more detail before I hand it over to Kenya. And we're excited about this because it's relatively new, and here in the last, let's say, year and a half, and we were one of the founding members to commit to this, which is, I don't think the only member in our industry, only company that committed. And I really like our CEO's comments here. Michael Mock requires bold action if you're going to break down barriers to equality. And so this was a bold action, and we are really committed toward following through on this. Again, that's why we're here today. That's why we're things like this conference that I'm attending right now. We want to walk the talk and be an organization that that you want to have at the top of your list when it comes to applying, when it comes to accepting roles, when it comes to helping us continue to advance toward just that world-class snowball that we're heading forward every day as we go on this journey. So with that, I'm excited about where we are, and I'm excited also to introduce our next speaker, who's dynamic, and you're going to love talking with her, Miss Kenya Jacobs.
Thanks, Tyrone. So I appreciate the introduction. I saw a lot of Texas references in the chat. So I saw PV, I saw Texas State. I'm right down the road. I live in Houston, but home is Port Arthur, Texas. I saw Spelman in the chat. I'm a Spelman alum, very proud Spelman alum, and also went to school here in Texas for my advanced degree. So I work in our diversity and inclusion office, but I'm an HR professional that happens to be doing kind of an assignment within diversity and inclusion. Been with the company, just celebrated 9 years, and really excited about the opportunity to kind of be in an organization where I've been challenged for 9 years. So I think that you can say that you work 9 years someplace and it's been the same year, 9 times, but I can honestly say that I've had a number of roles. I think I'm on role number 4, maybe 5 in the 9 years, and it's been a learning experience and it's definitely been challenging. Part of the work that we've done within diversity and inclusion, and I saw a question in there around how long have we been on this journey? I think it's a fair question to ask, how long have we cared about D&I? This is the 11th year that Trane Technologies, our former company, had a leader aligned. I would tell you from an organization perspective, when you put a leader in place, that means that it's important to you. And when you put a strategy in place, that means it's important to you. So this is year 11 for us. But in that, part of our transition into Trane Technologies was revisiting what was important to us in that strategy. And so our priorities have been around making sure that the culture is right. So not just about representation, but are we creating a space that when you show up, you feel like you have an equal opportunity to be successful, that your voice has the same weight as other people that are contributing, and that you can actually show up and not be worried about kind of the environment, but position to do your best work. The other part of that is you can't have an inclusive culture without having leaders that are accountable for making sure that we're doing the right things to kind of set that stage. Of course, making sure that you've got representation. And a lot of times when we think about diversity, we're thinking from a company perspective, you'll hear reference to just gender or ethnic and racial diversity, really trying to be thoughtful around more kind of dimensions of diversity than just race and ethnicity, but then also really being intentional about how can you as a company, and Tyrone talked about this, the way our former CEO spoke to it was, one company can change the industry, and that one company's decision to do that can kind of have a ripple effect within their peer group and eventually change and impact the world. So we try to think about it in terms of social impact. How are we in terms of being a good corporate sponsor and steward in the communities where we are? Are we not just, bringing people in for employment, but really thinking about what are the wraparound services that come with employment? Are we now volunteering in our community? We've made some bold commitments around volunteer and service hours, but then also really trying to position ourselves as a thought leader within the manufacturing and energy space around how can you do what we're doing to get more exponential improvement on the things that are important to us. So it's been a really great transition to move into the D&I space, because there are times I think our diversity and inclusion strategy, our corporate social responsibility strategy are kind of in lockstep along with our green sustainability initiatives. So all of the work, you can't be in an environment like a manufacturing environment and not think about systems and not think about process improvement. The process that we're working with is trying to make sure that our work is impactful in a lot of places. The way that we've tried to think about it is being thoughtful about positioning us as an organization where there's opportunity for all of our people. We're not just looking at it from a hire perspective, and I know today's event is about opportunities for hire. We're thinking about it kind of in this equation, right? When I talk about diverse workforce, it means we've got people that we've hired into the company. It means that the people that are in the company right now have opportunities for promotion and for advancement, and that we're retaining that talent. So that's really how we think about diversity and inclusion. We can move on to the next slide. I'll turn it over to my teammate, Michelle. And then if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. I'll definitely answer them or when we have Q&A later.
Well, before Michelle comes on, Kenya, I did have a question for you.
Absolutely.
Being that you are a Spelman grad, how did attending an HBCU prepare you for your professional journey?
I would say there couldn't have been any preparation better than my experience at Spelman. And I saw another shout out for Martina around Spelman. The school was small enough. The classes were small enough that I knew my professors. I knew my classmates are now my peers in the professional world. I've moved around quite a bit for my career. And every time I move, my first stop is to find the National Alumni Association chapter in that city. I've been a member of the Houston chapter. I've been a member of the Charlotte chapter. I've been a member of the Seattle chapter. So that community is one that has followed me throughout my career. When I first came into the organization, there was a Spelman woman that sent me an email and said, I saw your org announcement, welcome. And it's been, I think, one of those things that's been grounding. So that community that you got established in college is the community that I work within. To Tyrone's point, when you go to things like National Black MBA, or you go to other professional conferences, there's another chat group that's going that's saying, hey, we're meeting up with the HBCU folks are going to be in this location at this time. So it's just continued to be a connection and making sure that, I mean, I've got, HR professionals positioned in other companies that I can reach out to with just an email or a LinkedIn request, and they'll make time for me. So that has been a really, really important part of my success in the company as well as just within my career.
I can agree. I'm an HBCU alum myself, and the community that you build among each other gives you that confidence that you need to keep going professionally. Before we get started with Michelle, I just want to remind you all to ask your questions. I've seen some questions, but I know y'all have more. I know y'all want to know more. So please feel free to take advantage, to engage and connect with these leaders while you have the opportunity. And even if they're not able to answer within the chat, we will definitely come back to them during the Q&A portion, okay? So next we have Michelle Taylor, who is the new product quality leader for North America Commercial HVAC. Michelle, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tamika. Can everyone hear me okay? I think I'm just kind of doing a check here. Okay.
We hear you.
Okay, perfect. So good evening, everyone. As Tamika mentioned, I am the advanced quality planning leader in commercial HVAC at Trane Technologies. It's very similar to new product quality. It is transitioning to new product quality because it's very, very important in our product life cycle. And so I have been with Trane for 6 months. I joined Trane back in March of this year, and it has been quite the journey so far. And I'm really excited to be working alongside some incredible thought leaders in supply chain. I've got about 25 years of experience in automotive and power products industry. So I've worked for the OEM giants like Ford and GM, and I've also worked for the tier ones as well. So my most recent role was with Cummins, and I was executive director of global supplier quality and VPI value package introduction, which is new product development for Cummins. That was my last role. And I was with them for 10 years before joining Trane. So yes, I am a Boilermaker to the bones. So boiler up, hammer down. So I have alliance with HBCUs because I was also, while employed with Cummins, one of the joys that I had was being on the advisory council for the School of Business, their supply chain advisory council for the School of Business at Howard University, and representing Cummins in that lane where we recruited, where we did a lot of classroom facilitation, was nothing short of outstanding. And I really, really enjoyed that work, as well as being on the recruitment team for North Carolina A&T while at Cummins. So now that I'm with Trane, I'm happy to be doing work like this, as well as hopefully being on the recruitment teams for our HBCUs. And so, yeah, so I have a master's degree from Indiana Wesleyan. I'm certified in lean manufacturing systems from the University of Kentucky Center for Robotics and Manufacturing Systems, and I'm a certified green belt. I'm also very, very passionate about the topic diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so I also led in my career, spent time leading global supplier diversity at Cummins. And so as a result, I ended up attaining my CDE certification as well. So that's a little bit about my professional background.
Awesome. I did have a question for you, Michelle.
Sure thing.
As a minority woman coming into this leadership role with Trane Technologies, how did your previous roles prepare you for your current one? And if it didn't, speak to that as well.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tamika. Thanks for the question. Certainly, with 25 years of experience overall, it certainly prepares you from one role to the next role. But I would have to say my most recent role being a global role where I was responsible for more than 400 quality engineers worldwide across 6 continents. It was helpful in a couple of ways. And the first way was obviously managing conflict and cultural competencies. And, the second benefit was certainly working for a global company like Trane. So going from one global company to another certainly is helpful as you think about diverse perspectives and diversity in thought leadership. Certainly played a role in transitioning from Cummins to Trane Technologies. So happy to be here. And yes, I'm just really looking forward to, all the great opportunities that are ahead of me at Trane Technologies.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll hear a little bit more from you later on. But next, I'd like to introduce Shawn McCormick. He is the Source Products Quality Leader. And Shawn, it's your turn.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It is an honor to be here with you this afternoon. Thank you to HBCU Connect for having me as a part of this event this evening. So again, my name is Shawn McCormick, and I am the Source Products Quality Leader for Trane Technologies, primarily the commercial division. And what the Source Products brand is we basically we work with companies from the outside our business to produce Trane branded products so that we sell to our end customers. I am originally from Kosciuszko, Mississippi, a small town just 70 miles north of Jackson. I saw some Jackson State alumni on the chat, so I'm sure you guys know where Kosciuszko is. I currently live in Nashville, Tennessee. And I graduated from Mississippi State with a Bachelor of Science degree in Industrial Engineering and a MBA from Middle Tennessee State University down in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. So I've been with Trane for 14 years, and I started my career, the first half of my career in the automotive industry, working for tier 1 suppliers. So I really learned my craft in the automotive world, dealing with being a supplier to the automotive OEM players. It really taught me the craft around quality and develop skill sets in the quality arena. And so when I came to Trane 14 years ago, I came in as a component quality engineer, working with specific components, working with suppliers that to drive quality improvements in those areas, and then graduated from that into a regional supplier quality and development role, where there was more interaction developing suppliers and working with them in new product spaces, and then finally moving into an advanced quality engineering leader role, where we work with our new product launches to drive quality initiatives through that environment. So my experience has been primarily in quality as I work here with Trane and Trane Technologies. But like I said, the experience I gained both through the automotive world as well as at Trane Technologies has well served me. So yeah, that's me from what I've been doing over the past 14 years, I guess you can say.
Okay, so it's been 14 years.
Yes.
Let's be honest. What about the company makes you want to stay?
That's a really good question, Tamika. And there are so many opportunities. And one of the things I think that makes me stay is that I do have a passion for the quality discipline, if you will. And problem solving and making things better is one of the things that gives me the drive to continue forward in Trane Technologies. We are an industry leader in the products that we provide, but we have a lot of work still left to do. And so that drive to want to be better, to do better is what helps me and propels me to want to stay and be a part of this organization.
Okay, good to know. Thank you both, Michelle and Shawn, for telling us a little bit about yourselves. We are now going to move forward into the panel discussion. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Bear with me a few seconds here. And if I can get my panelists to turn on their videos, and we will get started with some questions, both from the chat and some that I have come up with. And also feel free to take this time, panelists, Michelle, Kenya, Shawn, if there's a thought that you have, any advice that you want to give, feel free to jump in. We really want to make this as informal as possible. It's not an interview. So if you want to piggyback on somebody else's question, feel free to do that. I will get started. This question is actually for both you, Michelle, and Shawn. Y'all, and I saw this question in the chat as well. Coming from a completely different industry into engineering, how difficult has it been? And Michelle, you could probably answer this question a little bit better. It's more fresh for you. How difficult has it been to transition into a completely different industry than what you have experience in?
Yeah, that's a great question, Tamika. I would have to say that, there's the thing about quality is that it translates across so many industries, right? So albeit coming from automotive, going to a climate, control producer, whether it's, manufacturing pharmaceuticals or whatever the case may be, there are some baseline fundamental principles around quality that just transcends. It transcends across, language, culture, and environment. And I've been fortunate enough to really have been in some great roles that have given me the opportunity to experience quality in a multitude of different industries. So coming to Trane and from auto or from even in so much as being a minority woman-owned business, I would have to say that the one thing that really transcends, that has made it easier, is that it's quality, because it's a common language.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with Michelle's comments. The discipline of quality is universal. And when you talk to people, I've worked with people in India, I've worked with people in China, and we all speak the same language, regardless of the product that they build or the industry that they're in. We're all talking the same language, and so really understanding that dynamic around what quality is and the interrelated disciplines that how it translates between manufacturing and engineering is one of the things that really we enjoy, and it makes regardless of where you are from one company to the next, an easy transition.
Good to know. Will, I see your hand raised. Go ahead, ask your question.
Okay, so I'm gonna be the candidate advocate during the panel discussion. So I know you've got some questions queued up for the panelists in case we, after.
But I see some rolling in the chat
So,
too.
so yeah, I'll be the candidate advocate. Now I'll raise my hand so you can see me and I'll take it down when we're done. But so this question was a good one, I thought. It was actually second by some of the other candidates. And that was, how has the pandemic and the remote work from anywhere shift impacted Trane from a recruitment perspective?
I'll jump in. So I put a little bit of the answer in the chat. For us, the pandemic in terms of like opportunities, when you think about Trane Technologies, it's hard to say that there's one answer in how we've responded. So we've got people that work, pre-pandemic, they either worked at a plant location, or we've got retail part stores where it really is like, customers walking in, servicing, and selling some of our residential parts. And then we've got people in kind of office headquarter locations. So for our plant teams, the focus immediately post-COVID has been around safety, right? So how do we ensure that we can do what we need to do to keep our customers' orders fulfilled, but also do it in a way that's safe? So we've got kind of that experience. We've had part stores that had to kind of shift even the way they engage with customers and how we got product out to them. And then also in our office locations, we had a lot more people that literally were told, take your monitor, take your laptop, and get home and be safe. So, in this kind of mix of returning back to work in certain places where people are fully remote, it's opened a lot more opportunities for us in regards to future work and where job opportunities can be available. So we've got more positions posted where there's a remote component or hybrid where you're not fully in the office for 5 days. So that's changed for us. The other thing I would say is just trying to help people manage the disruption of the last year in their lives, a lot more flexibility around kind of your work day, dress for your day, flex for your day. If you've got to, also be a teacher and the lunch lady or whatever, like how do we make that work? And it's really been a manager to manager, and now it's kind of a larger conversation in regards to future work. The other thing I'd say from a recruitment perspective is it's opened up a lot more opportunities for us to engage more people. So from an early talent perspective, we would have gone to 15 campuses and 6 campuses in Canada. We touched a whole lot more people last year, and we'll touch a whole lot more this year, because we really said, well, how do we do that from our laptops? How do we engage virtually, do more digital investments in terms of recruitment efforts? So that's been a shift for us, but it's definitely netted us a broader set of talent, because we could engage with more people, have more conversations like these. And I'm sure my peers are in different places. They may have different perspectives, but from kind of a corporate and recruitment perspective, it's opened opportunities for us, and really not being limited by, here's the talent that's available in Tyler, Texas. It's really talking about where can I find talent that can do the job.
I just want to piggyback on that question. With COVID, we're kind of rounding the corner of COVID. We're kind of not, with people feeling like, they just got hired, yes, I'm starting this new job, but my team is all in the office. To kind of ask in conjunction with the previous question you just answered, how much pressure is there from perhaps maybe even senior leadership to feel like they have to do something that they may not feel comfortable doing? Or does it matter? Are you all trying to create these teams that half are in the office, half aren't? Like, can you expand a little bit on that?
I can share just a personal example. I've been a remote worker even before COVID. So this is now year 3.5 that I've been fully remote. I previously sat in our headquarters in North Carolina. One of my team members is on the call, and I have yet to meet her in person. So I have a team that's, distributed, right? So I've got folks that would be in our office locations in North Carolina, but they haven't fully returned either. So part of it has just been understanding what are the organization's expectations, but also having some really individual conversations around people's comfort and how can we support you. So one day I'll meet Kim Grable, but I have not met my team member in person, and I have not been on site since February of last year.
Okay, good to know. So we have a few questions in the chat that are asking about, perhaps I don't have the experience that you're looking for. And this question honestly can go to all three of you. I do know that you, Michelle and Shawn, y'all have open roles. So perhaps you could provide some insight on this too. But say I don't have the experience on my resume that shows, you know, I have 10 years of engineering under my belt, but I have a strong work ethic and I have 10 years of experience in, I don't know, business or mass communications, something that, you know, is totally not related to engineering. But like I said, I'm a hard worker and I show up when I need to show up. How can I make my resume stand out to make you want to give me a call and just say, I'll give her a shot? Michelle, can you take
Yeah,
that?
sure. Thanks, Tamika. So, you know, one of the things that I always tell even some of my mentees or proteges is not to take experience so literal, right? Because experience is experience, albeit in education, in volunteer work. And oftentimes we miss experience because we take it in the literal sense of professional experience. And I think we have an opportunity you have an opportunity to really dive in and think about what skills, what competencies does it take to deliver in a role that you're trying to transition to, and think about it in regard to experience you've had outside of the role itself to kind of tie it back in. So I say all that to say experience does not necessarily equate to experience in that role, albeit obviously that's ideal depending on what role it is. But I think also with that, it's looking at how you demonstrate certain behaviors and mindset that is in alignment with that role, and where you have produced in, you know, other areas, albeit like I said, in the volunteer, nonprofit lanes as well. So just something to keep in mind.
Good to know. Will, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
I was enjoying the insight. So yeah, so I have an idea. We got more than the normal amount of time left for the event to get some questions in. So I've got an idea for our candidates that maybe are prepared for this. If you want to turn your video on and use the reactions to raise your hand if you have questions, I think that might be cool. You know, maybe once we hit 7 o'clock, we can open it up and pick some of our candidates. If you use the raise hand feature within Zoom, and then we can allow you to ask questions, but keep it brief. But in the meantime, I'll go ahead and keep pulling questions from the chat. The next one was from Martina Jenkins. And the question was, what are some of the most challenging aspects in your current roles? So maybe we default that one to Michelle or Shawn.
Shawn, you take that one.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So I think probably from one of the challenging aspects of the role is getting, we work from a cross-functional standpoint, and we work with other entities in the business. And so making sure that we've got good alignment and good collaboration with all those other teams is one of the key items. It presents challenges to us on a daily basis, but it also is one of those things that makes it an exciting experience. So gaining alignment with those other functions like engineering, like procurement, like even you know some of our operations. Those are some of the challenging aspects of the job, but at the same time, it provides so much clarity around how we can work together to achieve the mission that we're striving for. So challenging, but at the same time rewarding when we get the type of results that we're looking for.
Cool. I have a question for all three of you. You can, I want to hear from all three of you because you all have an expansive amount of experience, but let's talk a little bit about mentorship. how is that a part of Trane Technologies culture to mentor someone that may be coming in, whether they have 0 years of experience or more? And how has mentorship helped you? We'll start with you, Kenya, and then Michelle, you can take it, and then Shawn, you can take the rear.
So we've got, in our early talent programs, they actually do a matching and assign people a mentor. So we've got like our accelerated development program. It is not as structured. If you come in as an experienced hire, and I saw someone reference in the chat that they were early. I would say if you've got more than a year,
February of 2020. And so and at the same time, transitioning to, a new company at the level of leadership that I've transitioned to, which onto a very mature team, that's hard. There was a little bit of anxiety associated with that because you think you have, you take for granted the opportunity to come in every day to work and be able to fellowship with your team members, whether it's over conflict or whether it's alignment. And this has taught me to certainly value when we are together in person, which isn't very often these days. So as I think about mentorship at Trane Technologies, I know that hopefully I'll get the opportunity to embark on that one day. Hopefully that to evolve to sponsorship, that to a level that I can also bring and have an influence and impact on others to bring in diverse talent and build a pipeline of talent that is a part of succession planning as I think about my leadership purpose at where I am in my career right now. So I'm looking forward to that at Trane. I experienced it at several other places that I've worked, even in so much as Cummins, that had a very structured and organized sponsorship protege program. And it really, really opened my eyes to the possibilities of what happens in the room, and having a voice there on your behalf when you're not in the room. It certainly matters. And the two-way exchange between sponsor and protege and how you bring value to the relationship both ways. It really taught me not to take for granted that, because it's the senior leader and I've been matched with them, there's nothing I could possibly bring to them. And that I learned that was just not the case. So it's a great opportunity. And if it works well, you end up being blessed with friendships, lifelong friendships as a result of those relationships. Thank you.
Shawn, now I saw in the comments you are the subject matter expert, so I know you know something about some mentorship. So share with us your thoughts on that.
Well, I will tell you right now that two people that I consider to be mentors for me are on this Zoom call, and that would be Michelle Taylor and oh my gosh, my mind just left me just now.
Tyrone
Tyrone Ellis.
Yeah.
But yeah, those two people are mentors for me. Michelle's only been here 6 months, but she has had a very big influence on me from a mentor perspective, and I think she knows that. One of the things I'd like to tell you about though is that about a year and a few months ago, I had the opportunity to participate in a mentor circle for some of the Black leaders in Trane Technologies. And that was formed by our HR leader, Enos Harris, as well as the VP of Marketing, Portia Mount. And what that was a collaboration of Black leaders from across Trane Technologies, where we got a chance to share our experiences, learn something from each other, but share our experiences as Black leaders in the company. And I don't think that has been done before. And I haven't heard of very many other companies doing that, having that type of experience. And so we met on a monthly basis with about 15 to 20 leaders in the business. And we shared our experiences as Black leaders. And when the George Floyd event happened, we all came together as Black leaders to discuss how that impacted us. And it was powerful. And so that was one of the things that I think as a company, Trane Technologies has done from a D&I perspective is allowed that space to occur and allow those type of conversations to occur that may not have occurred before. We're a big company, and as Black leaders, we're kind of spread out to a certain extent. So being able to come together and have those moments is crucial for us, and provide those mentoring opportunities for each other that I really appreciate. So yeah, that's been some of my experiences from a mentoring standpoint. I've mentored a few people before, and to be honest with you, it was they sought out me, and it was an honor to be able to represent, to guide those people in some of those questions that they had to help move their career along as it relates to Trane, as it relates to their career, and just in growth as a person overall.
Awesome. Will, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Excellent. So I saw a great question in the chat, and that question was, what would you say are the top 3 skills needed to thrive in a Trane Technologies work environment? And those could be personal skills for a person.
And all 3 of you can answer that question as well.
So I'll take that one just real quick. I'll touch on it for just a second, let my other 2 panelists take it on. But I think one of the things you need to be is be true to yourself and know exactly where your skill set lies, and and not be afraid to take risks, but understand that there are things that we're all very good at, and so being able to capitalize on some of those skill sets that you've honed in on, that you've been able to develop. That's one of the things I would say is key in being successful in this environment.
Can I shoot a follow-up? Can I shoot a follow-up question?
Sure.
And I'm going to pose this one to Kenya. So Kenya, as a Spelman grad, I know we've got a lot of HBCU folks that have connected to hear more about Trane Technologies. So as a Spelman grad and an HBCU grad, do you feel that your experience having attended an HBCU prepared you for what you currently do today at Trane Technologies?
I would say it has, and I would say more so than, so my undergrad is in computer science and I work in HR, and I'm working currently in diversity and inclusion, right? Like that doesn't seem like a very direct line. But what I'd say is the environment at the HBCUs, when you think about like Spelman's experience, you don't see on the surface, sometimes people don't see diversity in the fact that you went to an HBCU. There's a ton of diversity in my HBCU experience, from socioeconomic status to places where people live. We had a lot of international students as well. So just being able to thrive and be an individual in an environment that from a distance would make you think everybody is the same makes me really confident in what I, like to Shawn's comment, right? Like I know what I do well. I'm very confident in what I do well. Spelman's whole focus is making sure that they deliver a woman to the world that's ready to change the world. So coming into a situation where you may be the only, coming into a situation where maybe everybody is not as, excited about getting a chance to meet, and work with somebody that has a different experience or a different background, you come into that knowing that you're confident and capable. and that I know how to build relationships. I know how to talk to people about the things I do well, but I'm also someone who can be a sponge, sit someplace, learn, but not feel that I can't contribute. And I do think that that's what my HBCU experience and many others have done for people, is prepared you not just for the world of your HBCU, but to make sure that you can stand tall and be someone who's aware of the work that you need to do. But to Michelle's point, also somebody who's being thoughtful about how do I, grow within my career, but also be accountable for helping people grow as they build their careers. So I do think that experience is very unique, and I think it's something that's made me successful within the company.
I have a question before we open it up to everybody. Shawn, you mentioned about, when the incident with George Floyd happened and y'all rallied together as an ERG and as leaders to, discuss it, talk about everything. That led me to think, beyond that, because, you heard about all of the companies sending out those emails saying that we see you, we hear you. Is that something that you feel is common with Trane Technologies as far as feeling seen? A lot of us, and I think I can speak for a lot of us, sometimes we are the only one in the room. Sometimes we are the only one on our team. And a lot of times we end up feeling like we can't be who we truly are. And so I'm asking, do you feel like you can be who you truly are? Do you feel like you are seen for who Shawn is, whether it's at work, after work with the team doing something, as a group event, or, at home? Like, do you feel like you can be who Shawn is? Does Michelle feel like she could be who Michelle is?
From my perspective, I believe that, and let's be clear, Trane is just like any company where they're evolving. And, I think that Trane is leading the way in allowing that type of activity, that type of behavior to happen, to allow you to bring your authentic self to your workplace, to understand that, that there are different experiences that we endure sometimes. And so I think Trane has started to recognize that, started to embrace that, and started to allow for that space to happen. So my answer to your question is yes. I think that being your authentic self is one of the things that is a part of the value system that Trane Technologies has.
Awesome, good to hear. All right, so we are going to open the floor. We've got about 15 minutes. If you have any questions out there and don't want to put it in the chat, feel like it takes too long to type, please go ahead and raise your hand, turn on your video, turn on your audio, and ask your questions. Raise your hand though, so we can do this in order.
Yeah,
Don't want everybody speaking at once.
Right, so for those that have not used this feature within Zoom, there's a little icon with like a smiley face on it that says reactions. And you can click on that and then you can raise your hand. Then we'll be able to see you, but you got to turn on your video first. And then once you raise your hand, we can call on you and then allow you to unmute. So if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask to the panelists, go ahead and raise your hand and then turn on your video.
And while we wait on you to do that, I see one question that just popped up in the chat. Kenya, I'll ask you, what excites you the most about Trane's future? How would you describe Trane's value?
So I'll take a little bit into what Shawn was saying. What I appreciate right now and what excites me is that I think we're acknowledging that we're on a journey with diversity and inclusion. There's a reason why I feel like I'm in a good person to be a part of kind of the solution building and advocating for an inclusive culture within the organization. It excites me that it's not something that we are building after last year in George Floyd. 60% of companies had some type of communication around a diversity statement following George Floyd, and we're on year 11. So I do want to be thoughtful. And of course, a lot of those years we're building and forming. But I think what I value right now about the experience at Trane is the acknowledgement that this is something that we're working on, and that where we have opportunity, it's not just focused on the hiring, but how do we ensure that the people that have been loyal to us, the people that are really, honestly, the hands of our organization feel as great a sense of opportunity as I feel in a salaried corporate role. I want to make sure that our hourly workers, which honestly in a lot of places is where our diversity is within the organization, that those people feel that they have just as much opportunity to change the lifestyles and the trajectory for their families. So that's something that's really important to me. And I feel like where we are right now positions us to be able to do that.
Awesome. We have a question from the audience. Clive, go ahead and ask your question. Oh, where'd he go? There.
Hey, thanks for the opportunity. The question is, a lot of corporations are indicating that they have different diversity goals and releasing those to the public regarding the diversity and culture and demographics. Does Trane, are they releasing or identifying their cultural or diversity demographics, and is that playing a role in how you hire or foresee hiring in the near future?
I'll definitely answer that. And I may need you to restate some of it because I was trying to read through one of the comments. What we publicly announced is on our website. So like we've done gender goals, and I believe we've got a broad, like it doesn't break it down by characteristics or the different categories, but I think there's also a publication around our ethnic and racial diversity. I would say as an organization, like I said, for 11 years, we've had a D&I office. This is the first year that we've actually put, I would say, some teeth in it in terms of having some accountability at a leader level. From a recruiting perspective, we can't see, and it's funny how everybody does it differently, but when I would apply for opportunities, I rarely would actually choose to identify my race and ethnicity. Mind you, I haven't looked for a job in 9 years, but that's what my standard was before. So you can't really see that in the application process. But I think when you see that I went to Spelman and my name is Kenya, there's a high likelihood that you're associating that I'm diverse, right? So for us, it's a consideration because we want to increase the representation, especially ethnic and racial representation for our salaried positions. But I would say we're also trying to do it in a way that makes sure we're trying to have a team of the most qualified, the best people. The way that we're able to do that is reaching out broader than maybe we would have done maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and being intentional about how do we make more people aware of the opportunities. Before I worked for the company, I really didn't even know it existed. So it's like, how do we make sure more people know of the opportunities we have in the culture, as opposed to saying, hey, we're really targeting hiring diverse talent. We want the best talent, but we know that some of the best talent is also some of the most diverse talent. Does that answer your question? I may have missed the first part because I was reading the chat.
You're on mute.
Trying-
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute.
Oh, no
yes,
problem.
it does. I appreciate your insight. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
So I have a question in the chat that asks, how is decision-making data driven with data wisdom? Any of y'all can speak. If you can.
Yeah, so I'll try to answer that question. I would presume it's around, the question is based out of data analytics, and
Yes.
how do we tell the story of our decisions through utilizing data analytics.
That's correct.
And as I think about where Trane is on the quality journey, we're starting to scratch on some critical strategic decisions around quality 4.0 and where we need to grow in data analytics and how we use data analytics to drive the balance between the proactive nature of our work and the reactive nature of our work to meet stakeholder and customer requirements. So if I'm answering the question or scratching on it, and I may not, but I'm just thinking about it from a quality perspective. When I think about our business metrics, those business metrics are based out of data analytics that tell a story, a report, that track, records, and reports a performance, right? So that's the rear view mirror looking portion of what we do and how we respond to our customers and stakeholders and our performance afterward. And then there is the data analytics story that we still need to grow in from just being here for 6 months on the proactive side of the business. And these would be driver metrics. And so that's an area in quality that we are embarking on now as we think about our critical strategic decision work that we're doing around strategy and where we will focus over the next 3 to 5 years in quality. I hope that answered the question.
It did. Thank you. Another question is, what is Trane doing to be more sustainable? Shawn, would you care to take that one?
Well, I'm not going to be able to do as good a job as Tyrone did earlier, but he did talk about our Gigaton challenge, and that is all mentored in our sustainability goals. And again, I'm not going to do as good a job as Tyrone in talking about the Gigaton challenge, but that is our 2030 challenge to reduce emissions, worldwide emissions by whatever that Gigaton is. So
yeah, and I would just add to that, you know, as we think about the environment, Shawn and Tyrone has definitely, you know, put the legs on where we are from a sustainability effort with environment. But the opportunity for Trane is really holistic. And what I mean by that is also going to be how we sustain and build capable talent and how we drive our diversity, equity, and inclusion goals in a way that empowers our leadership principles. So in other words, our sustainability goals, and albeit environment, people, community, that's what enables us to feel empowered to stand on those leadership principles that are authored by our leadership team. And so sustainability is really a holistic approach. It's the Gigaton challenge. It's how we take care of ourselves through Be Well. You know, the company is really encouraging us to do self-care. And then also how we engage with our communities, right, where we live and work. So it's really a holistic approach around sustainability and, of course, talent development and building a pipeline of talent that feeds into active succession. So that would be my take on that.
Okay, good, thank you. I have a hand raised in the audience. Liza?
Hi, yes, it's Lisa.
Lisa, okay, go ahead, ask your question.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to ask one question. I know we're kind of running out of time here. But I just wanted to hear about, given the, you know, how large is this company, and I wanted to hear about like the current challenge your teams are facing, and how you are, you know, planning to, or, you know, just particularly the challenge your teams are facing currently.
Nice to meet you, Lisa. So one of the things that we're dealing with now as a company from the that has been stemmed from the pandemic is around our supply base, our supply base's ability to provide components to us. We've got components coming from all over the world, China, India, and such, and so that pipeline of components coming in has been impacted severely because of the pandemic. So we're working, you know, hand in hand with our supply base to try to overcome some of those type of challenges, and hopefully get some of those things resolved. So that's one of the challenges that we're facing as a company as a result of the pandemic. Can you, Michelle, would you guys have any additional input on that?
No, I think the supply chain issue is the top issue among any manufacturer or a product, or even maybe even in so much a service provider, and it's not just us. So that's, we're in this boat with a lot of other competitors and the like. And so supply chain certainly, but I would also say too, one of the challenges that we are facing too is just our competition too, right? It's growing, and there are things, as technology evolves and mergers take place, we're trying to manage all of those dynamics at the same time of trying to recruit and retain talent, still meet our sustainability goals, and still have the impact that we need to produce for our shareholders and our stakeholders. So it's almost like the perfect storm. And don't forget our cousin COVID, right? So COVID just is that house guest that just won't leave. And when I think about the challenges in that, we are still, as a company, and I think even as just individuals, are going to really have to learn, how do we continue to be profitable, maintain self-care as an individual, still in the midst of COVID. I hate to say it, but it just feels like COVID, it will be here for a while.
Right.
And I have a daughter that studies epidemiology and is an officer with the Food Drug Administration. And she gives the same comment every week when I talk with her. It's like, Mom, this is going to be something that we have to manage. So
I'll just add something to what you're saying, Michelle. I think the other thing, Lisa, is, for all the things that we do from a product and process perspective, it's humans, right? So we're trying to do all of this, just like Michelle said, in terms of just mental health and mindfulness. Everybody in our organization is in a different place. I'm sitting in Houston, right? So how Texas has responded versus how North Carolina has responded. And last year we had people who had 2 kids in school and 1 at home, right? So just trying to be able to help people do their job, live their lives, balance the things that they could, like make work the thing that's the steady that you can adjust, so that you can manage your life. And I think the other thing for us as leaders is anticipating the next disruption, right? So I think there's also a consideration, a lot of places, of the return to normalcy. And I think we've got to take what we can from, what we learned about future work or people being remote, really trying to balance that as well, so that it's not, let me dig out of this, but how do we evolve in light of this?
Great. We've got 2 more hands raised, and then I believe we'll move on to next steps. But Lewis, you're up. Go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you for your time. My question is predicated to the management style. I came in on the later end, so I would like to know how the company operates in management from the top person on down.
So, hi, Lewis. So I've only been with the company for a short while, but one of the questions that I asked one of the senior leaders when they interviewed me was, what is the foundation and basis of our team, how we will respond to each other, treat each other? How are we expected to demonstrate certain behaviors that are in alignment to the Trane way? And one of the things that he shared with me was the leadership principles that every single Trane employee is responsible for, first understanding and acknowledging, and then secondly, demonstrating. And I think that that's the foundation of our company, and that it goes from the one end, from how we treat each other to how we bring value to our stakeholders and our communities. It literally covers everything in between. So that mattered to me. And for the leaders in 30 minutes with me going through those principles and why the Trane Technologies landed on those 8 that mattered. And so when I think about the demonstration of those behaviors, I know that I can hold accountable Kenya and Shawn and other leaders to demonstrate those behaviors. And when they don't, there's accountability associated with that. And like I said, being here for 6 months, I'll just be quite frank, I've had to actually, share those principles and remind team members, as passionate as we are about our company doing great things and we're doing wonderful things, we need to ensure that we do it in the spirit of those leadership principles. So I feel good about that.
Good to know. Shawn or Jacob, y'all want to chime in, or did she sum it up?
She did an amazing job.
We've got one last hand raised, and please correct me if I'm saying your name wrong, but is it Kehinde?
Yes, Kende.
Go
Yeah,
ahead with your question.
Yeah, very quick. So I kind of have one question. So I feel that a lot of complaints are pushing out like diversity and inclusion, out there most of the time. So I feel that when they preach that, but inside the complaint most of the time, they don't really make it active. Like, they don't implement it enough when they are preaching outside, but inside is kind of not really active, if you know what I mean. So my question based on, is there anything HBCU can do to balance that? So just to, to make sure diversity and inclusion are really active, both outside and inside the company.
So is that a question for HBCU Connect, or is that a question for Trane and what they're doing internally? Because
no, HBCU Connects.
That's a good question. So actually, one of the participants on this call put us to task on that recently, and I want to thank her for doing that. Where while HBCU Connect cannot control what a company does with regard to their diversity hiring practices, we can request that they partner with us on a level where there is some accountability around, when we have an event like this, what are the best practices for making an event like this not only worthwhile for, the company and their goals, but also worthwhile for the candidates that take time out to not only submit their resumes showing interest, but then also attending these events. So we've come up with, some best practices that we're sharing now as a result of that feedback that has come from candidates. So, my task or request from you as candidates will be to give us that feedback. We also implemented a post-event survey. So thanks to Tamika for following up with that. But now, after all of our events, we submitted a survey to our candidates and we asked you, what can we do better? But then beyond that, it's about, what can we do as sort of, the company that's trying to make these introductions and connections happen to help the companies that we're working with actually implement that diversity. Now, we're limited somewhat by resources. We're also limited somewhat by, what companies can commit back to us from as far as a feedback loop to give us insight into hiring. But I can tell you that, one of the results, like when we first started out HBCU Connect, it was all about online activity and, job postings and everything that you could do online. There was less engagement. But then as we further partnered with companies and they said, hey, how can we really move the needle on diversifying our workforce? What can we do? And they put the ball in our court. We came up with hosting these events that would allow, we put it on the company to say, hey, don't just bring your recruiters, also bring some hiring managers, but then also bring some African-American employees to the events. And the companies have stepped up to do that and volunteered that time. And folks, as you can see, it's after hours. Folks are committed to making this happen. So the next step is the candidates following through with the process, which I'm sure is coming up next, that when we talked about by Trane Technologies. And then we'll do our best on our side to get a feedback loop going on, the follow through with the candidates on interviews and then hires. So, we're doing our best to implement things as we get feedback from you as candidates. So I appreciate the question.
All right, thanks for answering that, Will. We are going to keep moving along with our last speaker for the night, who is Lindsay Mahan, and I'm going to share my screen again. She is Trane Technologies sourcing specialist, and she's going to go over what you can do after this event as far as next steps go. So Lindsay, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Lindsay. I'm one of the sourcing specialists on our team. So my job is to go out and find top talent such as yourself in the industry. And so some of you have probably recently received LinkedIn messages from me or connections. And, I hope that you will respond to those. But next steps for us for this for tonight will be, I know a lot of you have asked this question in the panel and chat. There's a link listed on the slide. Next steps will be for you all to go to our HireVue link. There is an opportunity there where you can submit a short 3 to 5 minute video. Highly recommended. It's a great way for our team to get to know you, get to see your personality, see your skills that you all were asking about outside of your resume. And if there's a position, you can go to Trane Technologies career, and if there's a position that you're interested in, certainly, chat about that in your video, but you can also use that link to submit your resume. And then what happens once we receive your resumes and your videos is we will review them and find the right fit for you and send those to our talent acquisition teams, whether that be, our leaders such as Shawn or Michelle, or even hiring managers throughout the organization, especially if you've stated, you want to relocate, we will send to the hiring teams in those locations and get you in front of the team. And next steps then would hopefully be an interview and bringing you on board.
Awesome. I saw a question asked about if we drop that link in the chat. I did see, Will, you provided a space to submit resumes, but we'll also be sending out a post-event email with all of this information. So you don't have to worry about trying to copy that link or write that link on a spare piece of paper. We will provide that link in an email tonight. So thank you all for coming. Thank you all for participating. To our speakers, Kenya, Shawn, and Michelle, thank you so much for your participation and your insight. I know I got a lot of information from you all, so I'm sure our attendees did as well. I am going to pass everything back over to Will to close out for the evening, but thank you again for attending and for your participation.
Yes, thank you. To our candidates, so what I like to do at the end of the event is I like to get a group photo shot. So don't worry if you're not in a place where some noise or whatever. You can just turn your video on and give us a smiling face so we can take a snapshot. But I'd like to really say thank you to the Trane Technologies team for volunteering your time to share your experiences, share sort of a day in the life, and then also, of course, sharing your opportunities with this particular audience. It's not every day that folks get invited to events like this. So you partnering with us to do that is greatly appreciated on behalf of our candidates. And to our candidates, we cannot do these events without you. So for you to take out the time out of your schedule to learn more about Trane Technologies, to jump on these calls to learn more about the opportunities that are available. Like I said, we could not do these events without you. So I have to say thank you to all of the candidates that have taken the time out, to learn more about Trane Technologies and join us at this event. So again, if you want to turn on your video real quick, we'll get a couple of screenshots of everyone's smiling face. And then we will be done for the evening. So go ahead and get ready to do a screenshot. So if everybody wants to say cheese. Cheese. All right, here we go. Got it. Okay, everybody, I appreciate you all coming and joining us in our event with Trane Technologies. Thanks to the Trane Technologies team and thanks to all of our candidates. We will follow up via email with those next steps and also the event video. But make sure if you like to have your resume included, you send your resume over to the Trane Technologies team to submit that on our website, which is hbcuconnect.com/Trane, Trane. And I also dropped in the chat. But thank you all for coming. Thanks to everyone and have a good evening.
Thanks. Have a great evening.
Take care. Thanks, Michelle.